Hello again and welcome back to Get Fit Guy. This is Kevin. Last week, I briefly spoke about socio-economic factors and getting to the gym. And in response, I received a nice email from a listener, which included the following paragraph. I know a lot of people have time as a problem. You know how it goes. You put in a long day at work, on your feet, you go home, and then you're the person who's tidying up and getting ready for tomorrow. The sofa looks really good at the end of the day versus going to the gym or going for a walk or run. So, this week I apologize in advance, but I'm going to go all philosophical again, specifically talking about the American philosopher Harry Frankfurt's take on free will. As usual, please remember this is a 10-minute-ish long podcast, and in that time I can't even give a full account of Frankfurt on free will, let alone free will as a broader subject. Free will is one of philosophy's most enduring and debated topics. Among the many philosophers who have contributed to its study, Harry Frankfurt is one that stands out for his innovative approach to understanding the relationship between desires, will, and moral responsibility. In his essay, Freedom of the Will and Concept of a Person, which he wrote in 1971, he develops a framework that focuses on the distinction between first-order desires and second-order desires, which offer us a unique perspective on what it means to act freely and autonomously. So, what are first-order desires? So, first-order desire is a basic desire to perform or avoid an action. These desires are fundamental to human behavior or can be positive or negative in nature. For example, a person might have a first-order desire to eat a slice of pizza because it smells delicious. Conversely, they might have a first-order desire to avoid stepping into a puddle in order to keep their shoes dry. Now, first-order desires are straightforward and tied to immediate preferences or impulses you might have. They don't involve any reflection or evaluation of the desire. They only express what you want in the moment. So, let's take an example of this in the gym. So, consider Alex, who's torn between two first-order desires. The first one is the desire to go to the gym and work out, and the second, which is the desire to stay at home and relax. Each of these desires come from Alex's immediate feelings. Perhaps the satisfaction of a good workout motivates the first one, but the satisfaction of lying on the sofa and doing nothing motivates the second. So now we'll come to what second-order desires are. Second-order desires are qualitatively different. These desires are desires about desires. So they reflect on an individual's capacity for self-reflection and their conception of who they want to be. So second-order desire, it is a desire to have or not have a first-order desire. So example, a person might have a second-order desire to study more diligently because they want to be academically successful, even if they have a first-order desire to procrastinate. They might have a second-order desire to not want the urge to smoke because they want to be healthier and they just don't want to be that person that's given up smoking and gone back to it. Now, the existence of a second-order desire reflects a higher level of cognitive and emotional complexity. It's what Frankfurt calls the human essence, our capacity to evaluate our desires and shape our actions based upon values, goals, and self-conception. Frankfurt then takes the concept of second-order desires even further by introducing another idea which is called second-order volitions. Second-order desires reflect what we wish to want. Second-order volitions specify which desires we want to act upon. In other words, a second-order volition is a desire for a first-order desire to be effective in driving your behavior. For example, if you have a first-order desire to eat junk food and a second-order desire to avoid it to be more healthy, then your second-order volition would align with your wish to let the desire for healthy eating determine the actions. Second-order volitions are central to Frankfurt's account of free will, and he argues that a person acts freely when their effective first-order desires align with their second-order volitions. In this sense, free will is not about the absence of external constraints, but about the internal harmony that you have between your desires and your reflective evaluations. So let's analyze Alex's predicament about going to the gym or staying at home on the sofa through the lens of Frankfurt's distinction between first order and second order desires. So, firstly, first order desires. So Alex has a first order desire to go to the gym because they want to improve their fitness and feel good after training. Simultaneously, Alex has a competing first order desire to stay at home, which arises from a wish to just enjoy immediate comfort. Let's look at the second order desires. So Alex reflects on the situation and realizes that they value fitness and self-discipline. Consequently, they form a second order desire to prioritize the first order desire to go to the gym. However, Alex might also acknowledge the appeal of staying at home and wish that they didn't have such a strong inclination towards laziness, which is a second order desire, to suppress the first order desire for staying at home. Let's look at the second order volitions. If Alex decides that they genuinely want their desire to go to the gym to guide their actions, then they will form a second ordered volition in support of that desire. But if Alex should instead act on the desire to stay at home, despite wishing to be the kind of person who prioritizes fitness, this would reflect a failure to align their affective desires with their second order volitions. You can see how this relates to the email I received. So you've got this desire to go to the gym, but you've got time constraints, you get home from work, you then got to make dinner for your kids. Oh man, can I really be bothered going back out again? In that situation there, we have a failure to align their effective desire to go to the gym and their second order volition, which was really just to stay at home. So Frankfurt's framework offers an insight into what happens when you fail to act according to second order volitions. Such failures can indicate a lack of autonomy because actions are not fully aligned with self-reflective conceptions. In Alex's case, if they stay at home despite their second order volition to prioritize fitness, it suggests that their will is not fully free. Instead, they are at the mercy of their first order desire for comfort, which overrides their deeper commitments. This lack of alignment can lead to feelings of regret, frustration, and self-criticism because there's a disconnect between values and actions. Frankfurt emphasizes that such situations reveal that free will is not just about choosing, but it's about choosing in accordance with the desires that you have that are of the highest order. Frankfurt's theory highlights the importance of reflective endorsement, the process by which people evaluate and affirm their desires. This capacity to evaluate and affirm allows people to take ownership of their actions and shape lives according to their ideals. For example, Alex might engage in reflective endorsement by acknowledging that they deeply value fitness and self-discipline, recognizing that their first order desire to stay at home is completely incompatible with the desire to go to the gym, and strengthening their second order volition to act upon the desire to go to the gym. By doing so, they can exercise their free will and take a step towards becoming the person they aspire to be. Now, a critical implication of Frankfurt's theory is its connection to moral responsibility. Frankfurt argues that individuals are morally responsible for their actions when they act in accordance with second-order volitions. This is because those actions reflect the authentic self as opposed to being driven by unreflective impulses. So in Alex's case, if they go to the gym, they fulfill their second-order volitions, they're demonstrating autonomy, and are fully responsible for their actions. If they stay at home, they may still be responsible, but only if they failed in making a genuine effort to align their actions with their desires. By linking free will to second-order volitions, Frankfurt provides a nuanced account of what it means to be responsible for your actions. One of Frankfurt's most compelling illustrations of this theory is an example of what he calls the unwilling addict. This person has a first-order desire to take drugs and a second-order desire to not want to take drugs. Despite their reflective wish to overcome the addiction, they're unable to suppress this first-order desire, and the desire to take drugs becomes effective in their behavior. The unwilling addict is an example of someone who lacks free will because their actions are not aligned with second-order volitions. This is in contrast with a willing addict who embraces their addiction and lacks the first-order desire to resist it. While both individuals act on the same first-order desire, only the unwilling addict experiences a conflict between actions and reflective evaluations, highlighting the role of higher-order desires in free will. In Alex's case, if they habitually succumb to the comfort of staying at home despite wishing to prioritize fitness, then they are the unwilling addict. Their inability to act upon their second-order volition to go to the gym signifies that they have a lack of autonomy. Whilst Frank Wirtz's framework for this is very influential, it's not without its critics within philosophy who bring forth several challenges. The first one is what we call the infinite regress. So some philosophers will argue that the concept of second-order desires leads to an infinite regress. If second-order desires evaluate first-order desires, then what stops us from positing that there are third-order desires to evaluate second-order desires, fourth-order desires to evaluate third-order desires, and so on? And the next thing is that simply that it just oversimplifies human psychology, right? So some philosophers and psychologists argue that Frankfurt's distinction between first and second order desires oversimplifies the complexities behind human motivating factors, which often involve unconscious drives and conflicting emotions that are not easily categorized. So, to conclude, Frankfurt's theory of free will offers us this compelling framework for understanding autonomy and moral responsibility. If we can distinguish between first-order desires, second-order desires, and second-order volitions, then it will illuminate the internal dynamics that we have in choice and self-control. These insights can be really useful in real-world scenarios, like the struggle between going to the gym and staying at home, where the alignment or lack of between reflective desires and actions reveals the extent to which you exercise your own free will. This model of free will and the concept of a person remains a compelling way for us to explore the complexities of human motivation, self-determination, and moral accountability. It encourages people to reflect on their desires, affirm their values, and take responsibility for shaping lives. A message that resonates deeply in both philosophy and everyday life. If you've got any questions, just want to say hi, didn't understand any of that and want clarification, email me at getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. Get Fit Guy is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Thanks to the team at Quick and Dirty Tips, Morgan Christensen, Holly Hutchins, Brandon Getchis, Davina Tomlin, and myself. If you have any questions, you can also voicemail me at 510-353-3104. Again, email me, getfitguy@quickanddirtytips.com. Visit quickanddirtytips.com for any information about the show or check out the show notes on the podcast app.